time of day it is right now that you're listening. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Youth Gone Mild podcast. I am your host, Gen X Joe, and it is a double dose of denim for interviews. Man, and do I have a great interview for you. Before I get into my guest and the interview, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor here at the Youth Gone Mild podcast, to Lisa Gandia of Celebrity Events. She makes the magic happen in the world of booking rock stars and other events. Check her out at celebrityeventsrock.com. All right, back to our guest. You know, I love it when I get a true musician on the show. I got a guitarist, a singer, the kind of musician that makes you remember why you fell in love with rock music in the first place. And that guest today is a true musician, as I said, Christian Shields. And we're going deep into how he got his start, a few road trip stories, and what's next for the Christian Shields band. Also, I have to give a huge personal thanks to Jake Curtis Allard, who also a multi-instrumentalist and the bass player for Christian Shields. And if you remember, Jake, not too long ago, was a guest on my show because he's also the lead guitarist in Pretty Boy Floyd. So Jake, thank you very much for helping set up this interview. So whether you've been rocking for years with Christian, or this is the first time you're hearing his name, you just got to buckle up because this episode is one you are not going to want to skip. Let's get into my interview with Christian Shields. Hey, Christian, how you doing, man?
Good. You hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect. You're coming in fine.
Coming in hot. So obviously you know of me through Jake.
Absolutely. You know, he spoke real highly of you.
Well, I appreciate that. I hope he would, considering he's been a member of this band before. This is how he got his start, because we were on tour with Pretty Boy Floyd and Trickster. That's kind of how he got that gig. So
that's what he was telling me. Yeah, I mean, he's got a pretty remarkable story himself right there. You know, not picking up a guitar till what, 20-ish, something like that.
I figured he played since he was a kid. He picked up bass though, and I knew he could play guitar, but it wasn't like some people view it as, you know, when you join a band, they're like, oh, well, I'm a primary guitar player, but somebody asked me to play bass or something. It's like, look, it's like I don't think that diminishes your musical talent. It's just that that's what we needed. And he just slots in there, and that's his role in this project. That's why he does his other projects, to fulfill or scratch whatever itches he has.
Now, you are originally from Rhode Island, and I was trying to think of a band or a musician that has come out of Rhode Island, and I couldn't think of any, and then I had to actually Google and find a musician other than you that came out of Rhode Island, and one of the bands that I recognized was the Talking Heads.
Yep, but I think isn't it John Cafferty comes from Rhode Island as well?
Is that with the Beaver Brown Band?
Yes.
Okay.
And then if you want to go more pop punk, there was a band, or emo rock, whatever you want to say. There was a band in like the 2007, 8, 9 era called Monte-RI. But yeah, I mean, there hasn't been many. I mean, there's many bands there, of course, but there hasn't been many that would break into, I guess, what you're looking for, more national or possibly international fame.
I just thought of another band that was from Rhode Island, and that was Belly.
What band was it? I'm sorry?
Belly. Back from the 90s, they were an alternative band.
I don't remember them.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know of them.
No?
I shouldn't say I don't remember them if I don't know them yet.
Ah, that's no problem. So, what were some of your musical influences?
Well, my primary one is Kiss. My parents are both big classic rock fans. My dad has always been a huge Kiss fan. My mom listened to more different styles of music. She listened to more like pop and stuff, like whatever was popular in the 90s. But they listen to, I'm going to say Kiss Again. My dad wasn't really a Zeppelin fan or a Beatles fan. I mean, I got into them, but my parents were big Def Leppard fans, Motley Crue fans. So grew up on a lot of arena rock. That's kind of like what I cut my teeth on and what really got me interested in playing music.
That's awesome, man. Did you ever get to meet the band?
I've never gotten to meet them. I've been 1 degree of separation from those guys forever. I've just never gotten to meet them. I would love to, of course, but it just hasn't happened. Obviously, I would have loved to have met Ace Frehley, rest in peace, before he passed away. But sometimes things don't work out like that. But I'm grateful for the people that I meet and that I get to associate with and work with, and I'm just one of the guys.
Looking at some of your songs, and I've gone through your playlist, one of the standout songs for me, and I don't know what it is for others who are fans of yours, but I absolutely love the song Lie to Me.
It's a great song. I wrote it. What can I say?
Yeah,
I like it too.
yeah, absolutely. And then you got Rock and Roll out there. So that's off of your what? This is Rock and Roll. What, that came out in 2020?
Yeah, so that's the record I did, and then from now on, I think I will be doing singles, but we can talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I've released, lost 2 years because of pandemic related things, so realistically got going on it in 2022, and then obviously I released in June of last year, Fall Like Rain, the current single that I have.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I really dig that one. But you're also a multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, of course, and producer. Which one of those hats do you feel most comfortable wearing?
I feel comfortable wearing whatever hat is required for the job, and if my skill set applies in that role, meaning that I primarily play guitar and sing. I can play bass, I can play keyboards, I can play a little bit of drums, I can play woodwind instruments. As far as producer, I did work at a recording studio when I first moved to Austin for a little while, so I was producing like local bands EPs and stuff like that. So I work with a producer myself because I view a producer as like a coach, trying to coach you to put out the best possible performance and all that stuff. So not to make a long answer to a short question, it's just that whatever the project calls for depends on what hat I'll put on, and then if I'm not suited for that role in the project, whatever that is or whatever that means, then I have no problem relinquishing that hat to somebody else. I am the ultimate team player, and funny enough, Christian Shields didn't start out as a band. It started out as me as a solo guy because I kind of got tired of the band thing. But the fans have now adopted, because I've been blessed to have, the same lineup, same guys. We get along really well. So they've kind of created the moniker the Christian Shields Band. So I don't correct them because, again, it's like if that's what the fans view it as, then it belongs to them really. So I just work here.
Well, hey, what's ever working, man. That's one thing you don't want to piss the fans off for sure.
No, yeah, definitely. Like I said, if I make myself open and available, and if they have a gripe with something, they let me know about it. I just make it so that way I can have an open line of communication with as many friends, fans as possible. I've been in other bands before this one, believe it or not, where I was doing different types of stuff, more harder rock, more at a band that was actually more glam than what this is considered, but when I did this project, I just wanted to get back to my roots, and my roots is just classic rock.
Now, when your debut album came out in 2020, that was kind of right at the time, the world just shut down with COVID.
It came out the day the world shut down on March 13th, 2020. I released it that day, and then later on that day we got the word that everything was getting nuked. So it was like, oh well. And then all the interest, because like I was building, it almost charted on Billboard, and after that all the interest just like vanished.
What did you do to build that momentum back up after everything kind of got back to normal?
It took a while. Momentum is definitely a hard thing, and when you have it, you don't want to lose it. It just took a lot of just talking one fan at a time, talking to people, and then eventually it snowballs. We can go down a whole rabbit hole about, you know, viral and all that stuff and what that really means, but it is a tool. It is one of many tools that you have, but you still, you know, advertising, flyers, text message lists, email lists, it all helps because not everybody uses all the same thing. So it's definitely a tool that helps, but like anything else, you know, there's pros and cons to everything. I tried to get some label interest, but nobody wanted to touch it. So, you know, when you put that out, I could just put it out as unsigned, or I can create an entity, you know, just to have some representation behind it. So I just created my own entity. Think of it like my own publishing, you know. That's basically what it is, and it's just a layer of representation and protection for the product. So it's like me adding like a layer of separation between me and the product. Like I said, the easiest way to describe it is just it's an entity for publishing. So in the future, if I didn't want to necessarily publish just my own music, I could have other people under that moniker as well, as well, versus just, you know, putting it out as unsigned. There's other stuff in the works, but I don't want to say for sure until it happens. It is definitely tough. You know, there's not a lot of institutional support. There's also a lot of competition for attention and stuff. I think the best course of action is to stay consistent. And I know you mentioned keeping the fans happy, but you know, you're not going to please everybody all the time. So I defer to my previous statement about saying, or refer rather to my previous statement about saying, you just be consistent. And you know, I'm just open and honest about what I do. You know, there's no hidden agendas or anything like that. And I think, or I believe that the fans understand that, and they're with me even if I do something that they don't necessarily like.
Jake, he gave me some information here, and he said to ask you about the time that you were in Dreamer, maybe it was another band, but you get to the venue and you guys are excited, you're pumped, you're ready to go, and then all of a sudden the opening band was a death metal band, and the lead singer of that band just pissed everybody off by cursing them out, and most everybody cleared out of the venue. He said,
yeah, this is an old story, but this must have been like 2012 or 2013. This was like a long time, almost 15 years ago. My band that I was in, Dreamer, we were playing a venue in, I think it was Nashua or Manchester, New Hampshire. I can't remember. But it was like this brewery place that had a venue in it for bands. And it was packed. I mean, packed. And then they had this death metal band go on before. And the guy got on the mic and he said something to the effect of like, in the Cookie Monster voice. He said something to the effect like, "All right, you motherfucking pieces of shit." And when he said that, before he even finished that sentence, because, you know, they do the heavy chord, the whole place had cleared out. Now, when we went on, some people came back in, but it was like a fifth of what was in there. And it just was a funny story because I just remember the guy, he was in like a button-down shirt that had short sleeves with like a collar.
Yeah.
He had on cargo shorts, and he had a handsome Squidward tattoo on his calf. And when I saw this guy, before they even played a note, I already knew it was going to happen.
How do you even recover from that?
You just got, the show must go on. You just got to get up there and do your thing. And we just went on with our show. I didn't necessarily point out anything at the time. It's just it's a funny story to just reminisce about now. But yeah. I'm sure any other bands listening and stuff, they've had similar experiences. You know, I like to call it the localist of local bands. You know, you can take that as an insult if you want. It's just that's just the mentality. You know, you know, some people want to do it for fun, some people want to do it as a hobby, some people want to do it as a career, some people want to, you know what I mean? There's different levels, so different strokes for different folks. But again, that falls in the category of localist and local bands.
No, I completely get it, man. Continuing the talk about being on the road, what is one of the most valuable lessons or things you've learned?
The best advice I would say for traveling with the band is obviously communication and trying to be a well-oiled machine. But if you want to just talk in general, is you want to be easy to work with and don't get in the way. So like you being the band that's low on the totem pole, or if you're the opener and stuff, you know, you just don't want to get in the way. You don't want to become a problem for the headliners and stuff, because they'll remember you for the wrong reasons. You want them to remember you for the right reasons. So you want to be remembered as being respectful, accountable, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, we had to learn, because definitely over the years, you know, we were that band that would bring full stacks to shows. Not my current project. I'm going way back to when I was like a teenager, you know. You bring full stacks to play a small club just because you think it looks cool, and the sound guy is like, no, we're not plugging that in, because all that, you know, amp noise is going direct into the mics, and then I can't turn the mics up because they're going to feed back in the monitors, and then your sound mix sucks, you know. So it's just, you learn things along the way. You learn things by doing the wrong things, you know. And, you know, I guess another good thing of advice I would say is about don't get in the way is, like, if you do something wrong, correct it quickly and learn quickly, because, you know, you don't want to keep repeating the same stuff and pissing people off.
One of the things I was curious about, you moved from Rhode Island to Texas. What made you select Texas maybe more so than Vegas or Nashville or California?
Well, I definitely thought of all those places, but at the time, the producer that I was working with for, you know, my band Dreamer that I had at the time, we did a record with him in New York and worked with him in New York. Well, he was moving to Austin, so he asked me if I wanted to come down and work for him, originally starting as an engineer in the studio, and then I eventually started producing my own stuff. Unfortunately, the studio did close due to COVID and all that, but I came down here, and one of the first records I worked on, I actually engineered a record that Marshall, my guitar player, he was playing in that band, and that's how we met. And when but he didn't like what I was doing, so he didn't like me at first. So it took a little bit of a song and dance to kind of whatever. But now we've been together for, I've known him for 10 years, and we've been together for 8 years now. So it just happened like that.
Yeah, kind of like organically, and you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I met everybody down here in Austin, so it's kind of like, you know, the road will lead you. You just got to get on the road.
From what I understand, too, you're also an actor.
Kind of.
Kind of?
Well, I mean, I acted in a documentary movie. We did a movie down here for it's called Bloodied and Bruised: The Untold Story of the Back Room. It's a documentary film about the Backroom Club here in Austin and the music culture during the time in the 80s and 90s. You know, Dangerous Toys is featured in it, so I played a young Jason McMaster.
Oh my God, you do look like a young Jason McMaster.
Oh, I've been told.
Oh my God, that's great.
So I know him. He's a cool dude. Yeah, so that's kind of like where I got my feet wet in that. And, you know, if people want me to do more, I will definitely do more. It was a fun, great experience. A lot of learning. And but yeah, we'll see what happens. So I guess you can put that little acting credit as a feather in my cap. You know, the movie has been streamed at or has been shown in some theaters around the country and stuff. I still think they're working on getting a distributor for it, because I know they want to try to get it on Netflix or something. But again, I don't want to speak out of turn. I'd have to defer you to Penny Rock Productions, the company that made it.
Yeah, man, no problem. You know, when it does come out, I would love to see that.
It's good. It's good. I've seen it twice.
Awesome, man. Now, what's next for Christian Shields? Whether it's with the band or anything solo, what should fans be watching and listening for?
Well, right now, we're obviously got some shows. We haven't done any shows since September of last year, so we're going to be getting back into the swing of things here. It looks like things are going to be pretty busy. We're going to do some Southwest, just regional touring for right now. Obviously, we're going to be going over to the UK in September with Enough's Enough. We're going to do about 2 weeks over there. Do a big festival over there as well. Possibly a new song or two. Kind of in the works right now, but again, I don't want to say it till it happens. And then, mostly it's just going to be right now trying to play, replay some of the markets we played last year because there's demand for it, and then, hit some new ones. So, a little vague, but like I don't want to say things before they happen because a lot of times you'll plan out a lot of things and like 99 out of 100 of them won't happen. That's just life. So I'd rather just state facts. I don't need to be like a hype man and hype myself up and say big things coming all the time. And that some people might take that as a dig, but I just say if the shoe fits, then wear it. That's just the way I operate. Maybe it drives some people crazy, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just different.
Well, you seem very direct and to the point and know what you want, know what you like.
I believe so at this stage, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty set in my ways, pretty set in what I'm wanting to do and where I'm steering the ship towards. But who knows what can happen tomorrow? The phone can ring and everything can change. So.
Well, let's hope not.
I wasn't saying that as like a negative situation. I'm just saying like the phone can ring and we can pull you in any direction. I know most people would jump to a negative thing, but phone rings and I get added more work, like, you know what I mean? Or it could be negative too, but I don't look at it like that. I'm just saying, you don't know what can happen tomorrow.
Very true. And I like the way you look at that because you're right. I immediately thought something negative. And, that's just me though. I don't know why. I'm always like looking at the negative things first, and then if something positive happens, more stoked about it, but yeah, maybe someday I'll change.
Well, I look at it this way. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn here because I'm not a scientist or a psychologist or whatever you want to say, but, from my knowledge and my understanding is most humans have an intrinsic negative bias. That's why negative stories and negative things tend to stick with you more than positive things. It's just something from human evolution, could be routed in fear or whatever, or survival instinct. So, I don't necessarily want to over-explain everything I say. I try to be as clear and concise as possible and mean what I say. Because, there's a lot of people that don't understand what words mean. We all speak English, but they don't know the definitions. And again, I'm not trying to sound like some grandiose intellectual here. I'm just saying that I can understand how, sometimes people take it as negative, sometimes people will take it as positive. I try to not use a lot of colored language and put a lot of adjectives on things. Like, try not to interject my own, emotion. I try to just be, like you said, just straight and to the point. And, sometimes I'll be a little bit more loose, but it just depends.
Cool. Now, for anyone out there who may not be familiar with Christian Shields, if you could pick one song out of your catalog for them to listen to, what would that one be?
Well, right now, I would say listen to Rock and Roll. That song basically sums up what a lot of us feel, especially in the chorus. Rock and roll is all I know. 9 to 5 is not for me, right?
Right.
So a lot of people feel that way, and not a lot of people get to experience or do the things that I do. And I'm not saying that to as an ego stroke or to shove in anybody's face. It's more or less if I can be, a lightning rod or something that people can live vicariously through and bring them joy, then, mission accomplished, so to speak. So, like I said, I think that song because it's pretty much my mission statement. I wasn't born with a silver spoon, so I've had to work very hard. So I definitely know the grind, and sometimes I still have to be part of the grind, and it never stops. I used to think there was a I'm making it. And for those that are listening, I'm just doing air quotes. But there's not really making it, because there's always a new hill to climb. There's always, well, I should say, a new mountain to climb. There's always something to conquer. There's always something new to do. You know, some people just get to a point and they want to just plant their feet there, and then that's where they stay. And if that's making it, so I try not to look at it as making it. I try to look at it as more like just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and just what's next. It's a question I always ask myself, what's next? You know, not to rest on my laurels, and you know, keep moving forward.
As for your social media handles, how can someone find you?
So if you can Google me, or you can go to christianshields.net, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You know, join me on all platforms. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, you know, Amazon. You know, and then also on Patreon, patreon.com/christianshields, because you guys are my record label. You know. So if you want to join over there, become a member, get, you know, exclusive behind the scenes stuff, you know, get access to the things before everybody else, and you can actually yell at me over there if you would like, and you become a shareholder in Christian Shields. You own a piece of my soul.
That's pretty awesome, dude. I didn't know you could do something like that.
Yes, think of it like when people say, what is Patreon? Think of it like patron of the arts. You're investing money in an artist that you like to keep doing what they do.
That's pretty damn cool. Well, all right, Christian. Well, hey, going to wrap it up here. I appreciate you being a guest here on the Youth Gone Mild podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. And just remember, everybody, there's only one politic, there's one religion, one creed that brings us all together. And Joseph, do you know what that is?
It's rock and roll, brother.
That's right. It's a little something we call rock and roll.
And that's a wrap. It was a double dose of denim this weekend for interviews, and I just personally want to thank Christian Shields for being my guest on the Youth Gone Mild podcast this week. As I said earlier, if this is the first time you're hearing his name, or you've been following Christian forever, what a damn good artist he is, and a great band that he has together with the Christian Shields Band. To find out more about Christian Shields, new music, tour dates, maybe some merch, check him out on christianshields.net. That's christianshields.net. And for everyone listening out there, huge shout out, props to you. Peace out, rock loud, live proud, everyone. See you for the next episode of the Youth Gone Mild podcast. I'm Gen X Joe.